Welcome to Money Market, a Bank of Tampa podcast. We highlight the businesses, expert business advice, local economy, and points of interest in the Tampa Bay market. Follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your finer podcasts. Please share this episode with a friend or colleague. So today we're talking about St. Petersburg, Florida. And when I think of St. Pete, I think of longtime CEO of the St. Pete Chamber of Commerce, Chris Steinocher, Mr. Sunshine himself, who's here to fill us in on what's going on in the Burg. Chris joined the St. Pete Chamber in February of 2011 as a CEO. So you're responsible for the vision, strategic direction, overall operations of the chamber, the chamber area foundation. Can you elaborate on your job a little bit? Like, how would you describe it?
First of all, thank you, Owen, for having me on your show. This is awesome to be able to work with a partner like you. The Bank of Tampa has helped St. Pete in its journey so much, and your leadership and your entire organization's leadership has made our success story just part of it. We call it the fingerprints and footprints of St. Pete, and guys like you and your bank really make a difference to our community. Community banks make a difference to cities.
How much
and
I
how
owe
they
you
grow.
for that?
No, I mean it. Like, I really want to say that what the story of St. Pete is and what the story of our chamber is good people showing up and caring. And Bank of Tampa, just like others, showed up when I got here in 2011 and said, how can I help? What can we do? What is going to make St. Pete get back on the map? You know, St. Pete has been an amazing community for the last 129 years. And I got to be honest with you, I believe our chamber really set the tone for it when we created ourselves. The Chamber of Commerce actually got created by this notion of what are we going to do to separate ourselves from the other communities? And we had that waterfront. And while other communities were building ports and industrial areas, our folks came in and said, let's build for a quality of life. Let's create a park system like Chicago. And from that moment on, our chamber has had an opportunity to look at business a little differently and look at life a little differently. And I think that's what people are finding about St. Pete. It just has a little difference to it.
Well, can you elaborate on that a little bit more? So people that are from, you've done a good job of it, but people that aren't from the area that are listening to this maybe for the first time, and it's like, well, Tampa, St. Pete, how would you describe St. Pete?
Yeah, so what I would first say is that, before, so I've been 13 years as the CEO of the St. Pete Chamber, but prior to that, I did 17 years as the Tampa Bay Partnership COO. So I got to work in this entire region. And what I've learned about it all, and what I really want people to understand about this Tampa Bay region is, you could look at Tampa Bay as either a fruit salad or a fruit smoothie. So we all love fruit smoothies and we all love fruit salads.
No kale though, right?
Right, but if you think of Tampa Bay as a fruit smoothie, you see a beautiful drink of, maybe it's got a purplish red hue to it. There's bananas and pineapple and strawberries, but you just can't see their individuality, but they contribute to the beautiful taste. When you have a fruit salad, you have the individual unique textures and flavors of each one of those so you can choose for yourself. And what I really believe, what I've identified how to best to market Tampa Bay is that we're that fruit salad, because while we have all amazing contributions, we all have unique and individual stories, how we're grown, what we care about, what we need to survive, and that's those different communities. So when you go around Tampa Bay, you've got Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, Sarasota, Lakeland, Pasco County, and all offer some different, unique flavor, but together they create, I think, the tastiest, market in the country, and I think the data's showing that that's working out.
Well, I love that too, and given your experience at the Tampa Bay Partnership and that regional approach, what's often drove me crazy, and you don't have to comment on this if you don't want to, but kind of the just the divisiveness that happens sometimes, because all those things you just mentioned are what make Tampa Bay great. I mean, it's all those things combined, and it's the different flavors in the fruit salad. So where does the St. Pete Chamber fit into the fruit salad?
Yeah, I think we are. I believe we're the tastiest fruit, obviously, but I'm the chamber guy. If I can use another analogy, if Tampa Bay was a mall, I would say St. Pete is the Apple Store. Why? I just really feel like we're the coolest downtown community that you can find. We've got too many artists, too many funky small shops that are all in a scale that allow you to walk through them at one point. And all these neighborhoods that we've created allow us to be so unique. Many communities created subdivisions, and St. Pete created neighborhoods. And there's a difference there when you can walk from one neighborhood to another and into your downtown. That walkability, that intense concentration of market that downtown St. Pete has, and now that we've nurtured. I believe we have that. obvious notion of what people are really looking for right now. They want to connect. They need to connect. They want to be able to be independent in what they're doing, and they don't want to just get it in their car and drive. And I think St. Pete's offering that for a lot of folks right now.
Well, and so I want to talk about the Trop site redevelopment at some point. And I mean, you had mentioned what's kind of unique about St. Pete's. It's just it's local, it's individual, and the risk of possibly losing that with the scale of development. I don't want to get there yet, but I do want to talk about as the city has evolved. So you have been the Chamber CEO for 13 years. You've been a resident of St. Pete for 33 years. How would you describe how the city has changed over that period of time?
The city has changed, but it's kept a lot of the uniqueness that got me there in the first place. So I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I graduated from Emory University, had choices to make about where I was going to go. And I had an opportunity to move to the Tampa Bay area. And then you have another choice. Do you live in Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, Sarasota, Lakeland? Where are you really going to choose?
What's your favorite fruit?
And what I really believe why I chose St. Pete and my wife, Julie, is because we were looking to buy a house. And the only cool places back in '88 when I moved here was Hyde Park. And so everybody wanted to live in Hyde Park. But bungalows, hold your ears, were $100,000. And we couldn't afford a 2-1 or a 3-2 for $100,000. That sounded crazy. But in St. Pete, they were $50,000. So Julie and I bought our first house for $54,000 in Crescent Lake. And then we began our journey. So what brought me was this amazing quality of life of the region, but the affordability of St. Pete. And then when you walk around St. Pete, you're like, holy cow, what is this place? Like there was a history there. There were old buildings. So you knew that something created there.
At that time, I mean, it used to be referred to as God's waiting room. And so there wasn't that walkability. There was nothing going on. So
Well, yeah. So when we got there in '88, there was just an amazing amount of nothingness there. But the old buildings and the old infrastructure, it was almost like an archaeological find for me and Julie. Like we really wondered what was going on and what used to go on there. And then we stuck around and just started talking to people. And I got to be honest, like even in '88, when I was here, there was a group of leaders that cared so much about that community, that knew what it was in the past and what it will be in the future, that they were the ones that we all found ourselves around. There were some great young leaders like John Reno Labuddy who brought people together, Dan Harvey and guys like that who were just really caring about let's get people together. And then the St. Pete Chamber. So I actually started in the St. Pete Chamber in 1990.
Okay.
Because my job wanted me to move back to Atlanta, and in 2 years, I had fallen head over heels in love with St. Pete. There was something about that magic of this is a real downtown, this is a real community with neighborhoods, and these people care. And when I talked about like in Atlanta, I just couldn't find the front door. As a young professional, how was I going to help? It was such a big community already. There was so much going on, and there was a long line and probably a big smoky room of people. In St. Pete, it was like, what can you do? Like it was all hands on deck. It's a surviving community. It's a peninsula on a peninsula. So there is kind of like when the waters come running, everybody pitches in. And I really believe that's been the mentality this whole time. I've seen it is the right people show up at the right time. They pitch in and they sincerely care about this piece of paradise we call St. Pete.
Yeah, I have felt, and I've heard, I'm stealing someone else's words, but they say like, you go to other communities and they reach out your hand and handshake. St. Pete opens up their arms.
Yeah.
And
we
embraces
say,
you.
We say many communities are handshakes were a hug.
Yeah.
We say we're a neighborhood, others are subdivisions. We really do believe that there's something different about that vibration of our land there, and people act differently. I think they know they're in paradise. I really do.
And is this fair to say, because the arts are so important to St. Pete? I mean, I feel like most communities that the arts follow the development, where I feel like the Dolly really reestablished the redevelopment of Beach Drive, and then I was talking to I'll name drop, but Yala Ford the other day, and she was talking about how she was one of the original 5 muralists that started the Shine murals, and that kind of was a catalyst for a lot of the redevelopment you see in downtown. I mean, is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, the arts inspire, right? And so even when I got here in 2011, we made the arts one of our economic development targets, and I think we were the first ones in the country to really say that art is economic development. It really is. It creates jobs, and it's entrepreneurial. And if you create a community that has an entrepreneurial spirit, you can solve anything. Because an entrepreneur, whether it's an artist trying to open a studio or the person trying to create that next dog bar that can have dogs and people drinking together, they do so much for your community. They inspire others. They take challenges. They take out loans at banks. They hire painters and floor layers that go to Publix that night and buy groceries. So when an entrepreneur gets inspired, inspired, the entire community gets paid. And so when artists get inspired, oh my gosh, not only do they get paid and everybody else gets paid, but then you have this beauty that others want to be around.
Yeah, it's that written. You talk about that unique St. Pete experience, and you really feel it when you're walking through the streets of St. Pete.
Right, absolutely. And it has been around a while. I was the neighborhood president in 1990 in Crescent Heights when we had the first mural painted on that water tower. And that was like the real notion of, we raised some money for an artist to do it. Tom painted that. And that was that first moment when you realized there were more than just you that cared about this place. There was a lot of people that want to show how pretty and how beautiful we really are.
So let's talk about the business climate a little bit. So being the CEO of the Chamber, I mean, that's one of your primary goals. And maybe we should cover exactly, but take a step back. What do you see the Chamber's role in the community?
Yeah, the Chamber's role is to be the preeminent leader of business to ensure economic growth and community vitality. So we are trying to make sure that we power a strong economy so that we can have an awesome quality of life. So we are interested in advocating for those things that make us different, that allow us to do good things in our community, but also we promote every member. I am way into the entrepreneurial spirit of this whole thing, so we are trying to start businesses, trying to help businesses grow, trying to give them that level of support they need to have the courage to be themselves. I really believe that in every one of us, there's this notion of we have something inside of us that we want to be, and our chamber has just allowed it. I mean, one of my first ventures when I got there was the Sustainable Urban Agriculture Coalition, SUAC, which is now its own organization, but it used to meet in our boardroom every Friday at noon to talk about how are we going to do community gardening, because I saw community gardening as that same thing. It's entrepreneurial, it creates jobs, it creates opportunities, and it inspires people. And, oh, by the way, it creates great nutritious food. So to me, what I believe the difference in St. Pete's economy is it's what I would consider a non-traditional. I didn't come here after 17 years at the partnership hunting industry. I was hunting those who can help us create the economy for us, and that might be a little different.
Well, so talk about the entrepreneurial and maybe tech, because I feel like tech more so it's got some good momentum. Arc, of course, moved here. Dynasty is here. It seems like going back to the days of the God's waiting room are well behind. Yep. But tech seems to have a lot of momentum in St. Pete.
Oh my gosh, they really have, and they've really responded to this notion that if Tampa Bay is a mall, we're the Apple Store. We are attracting so many of these companies that need to attract the highest and best talent in the world, and they want to position themselves as knowing that they have the place to bring those people. And so if you can show people a downtown where they can go take a walk and have a drink after work and even walk to work and bike to where they need to go, you're going to get those kind of workers. So I think our tech companies, and we have been just blessed with some of the most amazing entrepreneurial tech companies too. They have responded to this notion that the scale of St. Pete ensures that they're visible. I believe every business who wants to try to make a mark wants to feel like they're visible in the community because they have their head down, they're working so hard. But can we amplify that courage that they have? And that's what our chamber has focused on, is we have got to celebrate every one of these tech companies that come in and show what their opportunities are. And now Blue Innovation Group, they're the Tesla of boats. They're just brought out their new electric boat. That's in St. Pete too. So the innovations we're seeing now are blowing me away, and we always believed we could do it. But here's a funny story though. Back in 1995 or 6, St. Pete was the headquarters to Wikipedia. Yeah. And Jimmy Wales. And when Jimmy Wales hit it big, we awarded him the Tech Entrepreneur of the Year award. And he came to that to announce he was moving to California because he thought that Tampa Bay wasn't a tech community. It didn't have the talent he was going to require to get Wikipedia off the ground. So while he appreciated the quality of life and the people here, he didn't see us as a tech community. And I think many of us took that as a challenge to say, oh, wow, what do we need to look like to be a tech community? And that's what I've literally spent the last 25 years on, is we will now become that place where people are like, wow, look who's down there.
Interesting. So do you think that truly was a catalyst, or you just
I know it was. I know that's how the Tampa Bay Tech Forum really got its, what Michelle created at TBTF, which is now Tampa Bay Tech. I really do believe it took it was a gut punch to a lot of people to go, oh no, he didn't see what we see.
So it was the wake-up call that
it was a wake-up call that the last 25 years, I believe all of our communities have said, no, we're going to be better than that. And now look look all around.
See, I thought he was just offended at the whole black tie event because wasn't that the story?
Yeah, he said we didn't understand what tech was. He said, "Hey, guy with a tie. Hey, two guys with two ties."
For the listeners that don't know that story, right? Everybody threw like a big party to honor them, and it was a black tie event.
It was
right?
a black tie event, and he came in jeans, and he was like,
"Tech people don't do this."
He's like, "What are you doing in a tie, Chris?" And I was like, "We're honoring you." And he goes, "No, tech people, like he came in jeans, and he looked nice, but he was like, no, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Is like,
I'm moving to San Francisco.
Tech people are a little different." And I'm like, "Well, I'm cool. I swear I am." But you can't tell someone you're cool, so you have to learn what that is. And we were courageous though, but St. Pete just went all in on that notion of like the arts is economic development that will attract the entrepreneurs, and then that entrepreneurs, economic development, and the rest will come.
Okay, so we tech, but Blue Tech's important too, right? St. Pete Innovation District, USF is their program, and marine science is blowing up. You mentioned Blue Innovation, so can you talk about the Blue Tech?
Yeah, we are really excited. Like I call it the warm, wet, salty environment. So like both, we have a innovation district.
This is a rated G show.
Yeah, it is. I know, but the warm, wet, and salty environment is, imagine what's in our innovation district. Not only do we have more marine scientists than anywhere else in the Southeast, with 19 different organizations dedicated to our waters, but we also have all those hospitals down there, and Johns Hopkins and Bayfront and others. So, and they both work in the same environment, warm, wet, and salty environments. So what we have actually seen now, Owen, is like the connection of those two industries into creating some innovations. Like there was actually an innovation that came out of the marine sciences, measuring a spectrometer measuring water that now is measuring blood, looking for diseases in the jungles of Brazil and other places. That was created out of USF's notion of how are we going to measure water? Well, you can measure blood the same way.
That's
and
incredible.
at the same time. So I really believe we haven't even seen the beginning of it. Now I know our marine and defense industry with our hub down there is exploding, and now even McDill has identified that it's a great opportunity for us to test and be together in this effort. So I really believe our marine and defense is going to take off, but we're going to watch how we connect the innovations into the health sciences as well.
Very cool. So on the theme of the water, the mayor just announced that he selected a Dallas-based safe harbor marinas to reimagine the municipal marina. I guess, what's your thought on the plan? What's your thought on bringing it outside?
I'm excited. Let's get going.
Okay.
Let's get going on that. We have the Florida's largest municipal marina in the country, right on our waterfront.
640 slips.
And it has been a jewel for our community forever. And the last few years, we just needed to invest in it. Obviously water is hard on things, and it needed some love. We have gone through a few efforts to try to find the right partners. I believe the mayor and his team selected the right partners. They're huge, they're big, they have the harborage right next to us, so they can leverage all the ports, all the marinas and ports they have in Florida, as well as what they have in the Tampa Bay area. So boaters themselves are going to be the beneficiaries of it. Our community is going to be a beneficiary because you're going to see it redeveloped a little bit. We spent $80 million on our pier. It's won all the national and international awards, and right next to it now is we're going to upgrade that. We're also going to be putting in a ferry docks. We really believe in the future of ferries that are going to connect St. Pete and West Shore and South Shore. I mean, imagine
we need that to happen.
Imagine those folks in Riverview and Apollo Beach, if they can get on a ferry and get into St. Pete in 20 minutes with a cup of coffee or a cold beer in their hands. They'll come to Rays games. They'll work at the Bank of Tampa in the St. Pete location. They'll be there. So to me, that whole connectivity is the real next step for all of us to focus on.
Well, I mean, we're surrounded by water, right? There's no reason that we can't take advantage of it.
I can't believe we don't have more of it going. I'm so glad for our Cross Bay ferry system, and I want others to try it and tell me why they're not doing more of it.
So let me list off a few stats here. So recently, we've delivered 400 hotel rooms, 150,000 square feet of office space. That being said, that even though much of the country in office is suffering, we've got a 5% vacancy in downtown St. Pete, which is incredible. 130,000 square feet of retail, 2,000 residential units. There's still another 1,500 that are under construction that are going to be delivered sometime this year. What's driving all the growth and demand? COVID created an environment where people felt like they were more mobile
in their opportunities. And so people were looking for those opportunities for a quality of life, just like our founders came back down here and looked for the quality of life, that they were still going to work. The founders who created that quality of life community that we have created the first newspaper. They created the first bridges. They created commercial aviation. So they were coming here for a difference. And I think that's who we're attracting now, are folks who have the resources but realize now quality of their lives are important. So they have driven up demand for everything. And we are getting companies wanting that. So just like you said, people are scratching their head. Why is there such a demand for office space? Because people want to live in St. Pete, and so they're bringing their jobs with them. So that's the best part. The only way St. Pete is going to survive this beauty pageant is if I create more jobs, because we have got to create the affordable. People talk about affordable housing. I'm going to talk about creating jobs that people can afford to live in St. Pete.
That too. It goes hand in hand. So, with that, you've had so many people move here, and we just have not built enough to keep up with the demand. Right. So we've had, the cost of living has gone up. Housing has gone through the roof. Rents are up, 30% over the last couple of years. What's going on in the affordable housing space?
Yeah, we're starting to see a little bit of that kind of soften a little bit because of rates and stuff like that as well. I believe if rates come down, we're going to see the second wave of people coming to St. Pete. So I think we have to just continue to build where we can, and I really want to be smart about where we can and how we can. These last couple of days of some of these rains that have come down have showed us how vulnerable we all are about building, and so we are a very popular destination that has to make sure we pace ourselves in how and where we build and be smart about it. 40% of St. Pete is actually in a floodplain. So now we have to have new regulations if we want to choose to develop in there. How do we do that? And we have to remediate a lot of our stormwater system right now to keep up with the pure growth of this thing. So to me, it's about pace. It's about, but I'm really proud of that we are the city in Florida that is investing the most in affordable housing. So we took all that money and invested in our affordable housing. I feel like we are trying our best to understand how to take down some of even our industrial land that we had to create opportunities for affordable housing. And when we talk about affordable, unfortunately, it's 80% to 120. It's not even the 60 and 40s that people are really looking for. But I believe the way to work out of it is you can't be a mile from the water and build affordable anymore.
You can't.
But you can certainly create a job that people are like, oh yeah, I can do both.
I love it. So, and I know, the city's spending a lot on affordable housing, also trying to pull some other levers like the design overlay on some of the major thoroughfares, the neighborhood traditional mixed residential that was supposed to address the missing middle, if you will. That seemed to disconnect a little bit, that people aren't really taking advantage of it. The site plans aren't working. Is that being envisioned?
Yeah, I think some of it was, again, rates and stuff that people just couldn't take advantage of it when it popped out. So we brought some of those innovations in as rates were starting to pop back up.
Fair.
I do think we are jamming on our ADUs, accessory dwelling units. There's been a tremendous demand for construction of those, and now we're actually.
And there's a couple companies, by the way, that just specialize.
Like Cask, and they're one of our great members. They are awesome at it. And in fact, we're going to start maybe even talking about how do we change some of our policies at our state and local level so that there's a relief for people who want to build ADUs on their house so that they can have an affordable unit for somebody who's trying to get started. Right now, you have to pay. You have to reevaluate your tax structure. Your property tax, and I think we should incentivize people to build ADUs where they can, if they can, and if they want to. And I think that's how we're going to build ourselves out of it: is incentivize people to do the right thing.
Well, and maybe that ties into the success of the Sunrunner. Can you talk about what the Sunrunner is, and then also, with that was a design overlay to go along the corridor where it is that's in process right now too.
Yeah. So every great community you guys believe is a great community have great public transportation. I don't care where you are in the world, but you take public transportation when you're there. We are the only community that doesn't happen, and so we have been working. I've been working the last 30 years on making public transportation not seen as something that you don't want in your community, that you actually want to embrace. Sunrunner is our first attempt. It's Tampa Bay's first real bus rapid transit system that's got real elevated stations, runs up First Avenue North and South, goes from our beaches down to our downtown in a 15 to 20 minute headway. And so people can count on it. They know when it's coming and they can get in and off of it. So that allows things like if you're an employee at a hotel, maybe you're serving drinks or cleaning rooms, you no longer need a car.
Yeah.
And you can get back
and you can't
on
afford
this.
to live on the beach.
And you can't afford to live out. So you're coming into it. So we are making it affordable for folks to work and live there by allowing them not to take in their own cars or investments in that. So again, one of those things is I don't believe I can build enough affordable houses for everybody, but if I allow folks to be able to get places without having to invest in their own infrastructure to do that, that's, again, another savings. We as a Tampa Bay area spend way too much, each household, on transportation and housing, where it can't keep up that way. It can't, because I don't see property values going down anytime soon in St. Pete. So there is no way that this is going to be relief by just adjustment in that pricing. We have got to incentivize great growth, and we got to support it by public infrastructure that gets people around it.
Yep. So one of those is building more along that corridor, right? So what's going on with the rezoning?
Yeah. So the best part is, we have gone from a density, so if you're on the Sunrunner corridors, you have just hit, it's a good investment. I'm trying to tell people, look out on our west side of St. Pete along that corridor, because if we have increased the density to the point of where it's truly available for you all to build a lot more units, depending on what the property is. You can populate it to a point where you can actually not only make some money for your own investment, but bring down the property value, or bring down the rents that you would have to charge folks. And so where it used to have 8 units, might have 80 units on it going forward. And that sounds scary to people because density sounds bad, but the design is this. You don't want 80 stories next door to you.
Yep.
But you do want them on those main thoroughfares.
Yes.
So what St. Pete has decided is we're going to make sure that density goes along where public transportation will be, so that we can keep the affordability of transit-oriented development will allow us to get people to get their first apartment along the Sunrunner line, get to their job and back home with that kind of expense. And that is our strategy, is we are going to continue to, where you see main corridors, we're going to ask for the highest density, and then we're going to put in public transportation.
Love it. So kind of last topic. So after several years and 4 mayors, the Rays announced that in early January they plan to stay in St. Pete and co-develop the Tropicana Field site, or the gas plant district, with Heinz Development. So I want to take the opportunity to personally thank you, because you talk about blood and sweat and tears. 4 mayors, but you were the constant voice in the room to keep bringing people back to the table to continue to have the discussion. And we seemingly are close to having an agreement in hand. And but how important is it for St. Pete to keep the Tampa Bay Rays?
Well, thank you. And I've been working on the Tampa Bay Rays since they were before here. I actually got to work in 1995 with Jack Critchfield and others to sell the season tickets to businesses to ensure that we could get that major league team here. So I was at that announcement when they told us we were going to get that team, and I've been working with them ever since to try to keep them here. There's no other way that I see St. Pete developing with the Rays forever. And St. Pete made a decision that's strategic, and we made that decision in 1973. Along that time frame, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Disney. Walt Disney World, ever been? So it's in Orlando, not too far away. And before, St. Pete was the place where people came to see things. Sunken Gardens and Gatorland and other places we had along US 19 and down 4th Street. And when Walt Disney changed what attractions are, people started going that way. So our Chamber of Commerce and our community leaders said, tourism is going somewhere different. So what are we going to do? Well, we still have our retirees. And so we were a retirement community. And then Sun City Center opened up. And people said, wait, I can drive around in a golf cart and play still while I'm older, and I don't have to be in this place that's got steps and high rise. So they boogied to these retirement villages. So in 1973, you have a community that had nothing going on. And that's when it was that nearly dead kind of notion of what is actually going to happen here. So our business community and the leadership of our community said, spring training's been good to us. We've had 50 plus years of it. We know these people. They come down and they party hard down here, and they care about us. Let's go make that pitch. So it was a 20-year effort to land that deal. And so I know that kind of work went into that. Mm-hmm. So when we got that deal, I know how hard we have to work to keep that deal. And so that for me, even the last 11 years, when I got to be the chamber president, we declared the Tampa Bay Rays our #1 retention project. We were not going to let it go. Listen, I don't want any company to go. Bank of Tampa, I don't ever want you to leave St. Pete. I don't want any of my employers to leave. But they sometimes have to, and we have to understand that. But also it's how our community takes care of them, understands the impact. And listen, am I a big baseball fan? No, I never made the high school team, and so like I peaked in t-ball. So this isn't about me just loving baseball. It's about the impact. When the Rays had their first game, people came from everywhere to St. Pete. And that was the time when nobody even knew what St. Pete was. That was that aha moment. And then imagine them days and weeks after that keep people coming in and go, wait, what is St. Pete? And then they saw Ferg's, and then they saw, wait, look at all these other empty buildings. And then they said, hey, look how cheap it is. Let's start investing in it. So I really believe you want an activity center in your community that people come explore so they see it. There's options of what that activity center is. Baseball was the one we chose as a community in 1973. And so when I saw that logo that said "Here to Stay," and I was at that announcement where you had the mayor, the Rays and Hines in our county, and others standing there going, "We think we have a deal." I literally had tears in my eyes.
I believe it after being there from the inception.
This is so impactful, and why it's impactful now is for a different reason than it was in 1973. Now it's impactful because we are going to rebuild a great neighborhood.
Let's talk about that, because it really is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to redevelop and redefine downtown. So can you talk about the opportunity, but then also I mentioned earlier just that could completely change the fabric of St. Pete, right? So
it will change it.
How do we keep it local? How do we keep it funky?
It will change it, and I really believe it will keep us that cool local place. I really believe that, and that's what I'm trying to tell people is, listen, first of all, I want that deal to happen because I know we have momentum, and I know we have Hines and Rays in the city and county who care about it and want it. So I'm a big fan of it happening. But this is not about making sure that you're paying for a baseball stadium. This is making sure that you are living up to promises made about taking down an amazing neighborhood, amazing families who live there, amazing businesses that were there, and they were all African American. And we said, hey, we're going to take down this land and we're going to create a place where jobs and places for you to be back are. And then what did we do? We built a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of concrete around that parking lot. So now I don't believe, as I've said before, I believe it was the right decision because it created the economic development that we have today and the ad valorem that we have today by that investment. But the design was purely wrong. The design from day one was wrong of that stadium, that parking lot.
It was kind of it was a dying breed.
It was a dying breed.
Anyway.
It was the last of those big warehouses. Yep. And so now we have an opportunity to do what they did back 100 years ago, is integrate it into your community and make sure you understand that those communities are where people want to be. That's what you can imagine having an arts place, having a museum, having all those places to live, all those places to work. We're creating a great neighborhood again. And then we're making sure there's affordability to that as well, and an honor to who this neighborhood is. And the neighbors who live there are part of it with their fingerprints. And I'm telling you, there is no other community around the country that is committing to rebuilding. Every community did this to a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. When interstates came in, every city across the country decimated an African-American neighborhood or downtown. Let's be honest about that. What St. Pete's trying to say is let's get it right. And I am so blown away that a company like Hines and the Tampa Bay Rays see that same vision and they want to do it. And our county is like, heck yeah, we're going to create a great neighborhood.
So what's being done to ensure that those promises aren't repeated again? And how is the chamber playing a role in that?
Yeah, the best part is there's in St. Pete, we have something called the CBA. Community Benefit Agreement, and it's a $50 million investment that the Hines and Rays are making into our community to make sure those promises are kept. And it's enumerated, it's listed, and so there's accountability to it. And now we have a committee of city volunteers, so of folks who live or work within a mile of that place that are all meeting now on a regular basis to understand, is that $50 million worth it? Do we have the right kind of impact for the promises kept? And so do we make sure that museum gets built? Do we make sure those 1,200 affordable units are built? How do we keep them accountable the whole time? So I've never seen a system created where it would be really hard to wiggle out of just creating another parking lot again. There's just no way. It's so connected. But also I believe that the Hines and Rays also see that's what cities need right now. And could you imagine if this was the first place to really remind the communities and around the country that you have an opportunity to do something even better than you have done in the past?
Yeah, we got an opportunity to show the rest of the country how it's.
I think we're going to. I really believe we're going to be a poster child for how we got it right after getting it really, really wrong.
Well said. Anything else you want people to know about Chris?
I hope you know that I'm excited about this entire region. I think we're the hottest market. Just in the last year alone, and you probably know this because your vault's probably full of it, but in Pinellas County alone, $1.3 billion of net new wealth have come to our community. That means people have gone up I-75 and left over to the Georgia border, and some have come in. Those who have come in have $1.3 billion more in their pocketbooks.
That's incredible.
So if you and I don't see this as an upside economy, if you and I don't see that this is a market where we all can benefit, if every entrepreneur who's listening says, hey, we can do this now, there is a market here for us, and there's communities who care about it, this is an opportunity for everybody to say, we're in the right place at the right time, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Well, I'll tell you, that's actually why we call the podcast Money Market, because it's not only the play on the bank product, but it's because we're in a money market, and there is so much opportunity here. So well said. So if people want to find you, Chris, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm at stpete.com. I am the St. Pete Chamber of Commerce president. Please come take a look at anything we're up to. If you're an entrepreneur, please come to our greenhouse, which offers free services for every entrepreneur to make sure they get started in St. Pete.
Chris Steinocher, thank you for coming on Money Market. If you have a question or future show idea, would like to be a sponsor, you can send us a message at moneymarket@bankoftampa.com or find us on LinkedIn, X, Facebook, or on Instagram at Bank of Tampa and online at bankoftampa.com. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. And until next time, adios.